Maverick News, the antivirus program for your mind. And now, the Freedom Reporters.
Huge escalation in the Middle East. Two big political / military figures, whatever, assassinated. We have Israel striking into Lebanon, and we have Donald Trump talking about Kamala Harris. Apparently, she just decided to become black. We're going to talk about it with Kevin Michelizzi when we come back, right after this.
You know, someone very profoundly once said many years ago that if fascism ever comes to America, it'll come in the name of liberalism.
Well, I think it's time we ask ourselves if we still know the freedoms that were intended for us by the Founding Fathers. If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on Earth.
The entire world is watching.
Every dictator, every crazy dictator in the world is watching. The world is watching. On TV,
the entire world is watching.
On social media.
But the entire world is watching, and yes, they are seeing what we have apparently bravely been willing to say that others are thinking.
Stand for freedom. Literally stand for freedom. Let's get this done. The entire world is watching.
We're at war with the most dangerous enemy that has ever faced mankind in his long climb from the swamp to the stars.
Maverick News. Maverick News. Maverick News.
Let me have more control of my own destiny.
The world is watching.
He's a fighter. He's a survivor. President Trump, defiant, strong. He is determined to make America great again. He's a fighter. He's a survivor. President Trump, defiant, strong. He is determined to make America great again. Pay tribute to the 45th President of the United States with this collectible t-shirt from the Maverick News Memorable Moments collection. Even a would-be assassin's bullet could not stop him. Instead, he emerged with his fist in the air ready to fight. For freedom, get your Trump Fighting for Freedom t-shirt with any donation of $30 or more to Maverick News. There are two iconic artistic designs to choose from. But there is only one way to get these. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Support free speech. Free media. Support Maverick News. Call 1-866-248-1490 or order online at supergeeks.tv.
Okay, and those t-shirts are printed and ready to ship out. I have them in my possession. I just don't have them beside me. I can't show you, but trust me, they're done. And here's Kevin. Hello, welcome back, sir.
Hey, Rick.
So before we get started, I have to tell everybody I'm squinting, and I have a story to tell. I can't see very well right now because I was in getting some eye tests done. So they're putting all these drops and things in my eyes. But before they took me to the torture chamber, started shining bright lights in my eyes. I had to talk to a nurse. So I walked in to the room with this nurse, and she says, I have to ask you some questions. She asked me a few routine questions, my date of birth and so on. And she looks at me and she says, any mental health issues? So I'm thinking, oh my God, she's seen the show. And I looked at her and I said, well, the world's gone completely insane and I can't tell what's real anymore. She says, "Don't tell me that." Or it's upstairs to the fourth floor for you, pal. Anyway, I thought that was funny. uh, you don't even know what to say. You don't know what to say. What time is it where you are?
Either. Yeah. Oh, the only thing I can comment is I'm squinting too, but it's probably because of the time of the day.
But yeah, and she said, well, she said, she said, I get a lot of crazy people in here. She didn't use those words because she's a nurse and she has to use more professional language. But yeah,
Yeah, don't tell me
anyway.
that.
Don't tell me that.
See the crowd I hang with, yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, I said, well, I know a few others I could bring by if you're looking for some more crazy people. But anyway, it was funny to me. I just about got myself thrown in the psych ward. Anyway, that's what a sense of humor and doing this show will do to you over time. Oh my goodness. Oh, but everything is insane and things are really, going nuts in the Middle East. What can you tell us about these two high level? I don't even know what to call them. What do you call these guys?
Officials? Political leaders. How about that?
Okay, sure. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yesterday they killed this what was his name? I don't even know what his name was.
Ismail.
Well, yesterday
yeah, that was
yesterday your time was Fuad Shakur in Beirut, a supposed Hezbollah commander. Or supposedly, they claim they killed him, but Hezbollah hasn't said that he's been killed. But today, well, I guess your last night, they also struck inside Tehran again. Ismail Haniyeh, who is Hamas's top political leader. And Israel's claiming that he planned the October 7th attacks. And, who knows? He was supposedly also responsible for something else. I don't remember what it was a couple of years ago. But, lots of claims by Israel. They said this guy was responsible for the soccer field attack and killing of 10 children over the weekend.
Yeah, I think like 12 was it 12 people in total, I think.
Yeah And I've got to tell you, that one I'm still out on whether that was actually a strike they originally said it was Hamas, so I guess that, or the Hezbollah, so I guess that was the Hezbollah guy. And the jury's still out in my mind on whether that was a real strike or if that was a false flag. So lots of things I've seen in the videos and pictures of that deal that look off to me. But, obviously there was something that went on there. And, Hezbollah says, no, we didn't strike a soccer field. We struck a military facility. So, could it be a stray? I don't know. I can't call it a missile because there wasn't enough damage for a missile. But, could it have been a stray fragment, air defense? Who knows what? So I haven't made a decision on where I stand on that one. But this Hamas guy was big deal.
Let's just back up a little bit, talk a little bit more about the soccer field incident, because that's one of the things that really served as the catalyst for this whole current round of actions and reactions, right?
Yeah. I mean, it came right after we had Netanyahu, cheerleading the U.S. Congress. And right after it. And I don't know, just there were things that didn't look right in the video. You've got
Can we bring up can we find some video of that?
yeah, and I probably got some pictures of that as well, that I used the other day that just raised questions for me. And let me see what I've got handy here. They're just there's some, supposedly all shots of the same strike, yet you see things moving around, in, oh yeah, here I've got a couple of them. Let me load them up. Looks like I have them loaded already. So I'll get rid of one of these.
Do you need me to click? No, you've got it. Okay.
Well, I've got some pictures.
Okay.
And the thing that strikes me is if you look at this picture after the strike, not a whole lot of damage. If you look behind this light pole, this is supposedly where the missile struck. But let me throw another one up. Notice you've got 2 bicycles and a couple of scooters and something draped over something. And if we look at this one, now all of a sudden we've got an ATV there. Similar set of people mulling about there. So where did the ATV go? And notice where the scooters are. They were actually, this was taken, like 15 hours after the strike, or was posted then. The other one was posted a couple hours later. So there's just, some things that raise question. In one of the pictures I've got here, I don't have it up here right now. Yeah, there we've got that one. So again, you can see the area behind the light pole. Not a real big, just doesn't look like a missile strike to me. Here's actually supposedly where it was hit. So it was something pretty darn small. But, I will also give Israel the fact that, even as a false flag, it would be pretty interesting that they knew that there was going to be strike on a military base and could plan something like this. And, I don't know, just a lot of questions in my mind.
So you're pointing to what, the positioning, or the ATV wasn't in one shot, but was in another?
Yeah, the ATV is in one shot, it's not in the other. The scooters are moved back and forth between the bicycles and off to the side of the bicycles.
But you have quite a few people in this shot, and then in the other shot there, it doesn't appear to be much of a crowd at all. It would look most of the people have
and
gone.
here we have
So
something
they may have
green
moved
over
things-
there. So
they may have moved things around.
Yeah, they could have moved
Hard-
things around.
easily. So I don't know, and I don't know why they would, but they easily could have done that.
Yeah, and this is supposedly right after the strike. So can't make it bigger, but again, we've got the burning ATV. I don't know, just I'm out on this one.
It doesn't appear to have enough damage to have been a direct missile strike. That, from my perspective.
Yeah.
But
that was the
obviously
first thing
something.
for me, but
Yeah.
could have been something small. Could it have been a drone, a small drone, or somebody, a drone carrying a hand grenade or something? And that's where I have to kind of give some weight to, it being a legitimate strike is, Israel would have no way of knowing there was going to be a strike on a military field that day. And it would be pretty coincidental that they planned a false flag on the same day. So I don't know. I'm not willing to make a call on this one.
Yeah, I'm very reluctant to accept at face value any claims at any time anymore of false flags on either side, because I just hear too much of that. It's almost like it's used as a crutch or an automatic default go-to for one side or the other. No, they did it to themselves. It wasn't us. They did it to themselves. It's wearing a little thin on me, honestly. Maybe it's just because I'm, exposed to it sitting in this chair every night. So maybe it's just wearing me down. But before I accept anything anymore, I just want a lot more facts, a lot more proof before I jump to conclusions.
and that's why I'm saying I'm not willing to make a call on that one. So I don't know. I also, with the amount of time I'm in this stuff during the day, I have a hard time accepting anything Israel says is fact too. So
well, that's why I say on any side,
or anybody else, quite honestly.
Especially when you're in a war. Yeah.
I don't think Hezbollah is the most reliable data source, and nor Hamas.
No. My goodness. So we get that. What day was that now? Because I'm losing track of the days. That was Sunday.
Yeah, Saturday or Sunday. I don't recall.
Yeah. And then from that, we get this retaliation from Israel. And I'm trying to keep all the facts straight here now. So because of that, Israel launches an attack against, which one was it that came next? Was it Beirut? They hit Beirut next. Yes.
Yeah. First it was Beirut. This was Ismail Haniyeh.
Yeah.
And again, Israel didn't directly claim to make that attack, but everyone's saying it was them.
Yep. Yeah. And I know that there were many journalists trying to get reaction from Israel. The only response that they got initially, even earlier today, was, "We don't comment on foreign media reports, but we're aware of the strike." That was it. So we neither confirm nor deny, I guess, is basically where it was the last time I checked.
Yeah. Yeah. Same place I'm at. Yeah. I don't know.
But they didn't come out and say that, it was a false flag. They just didn't comment directly on it. But
yeah,
that in itself tells me it was probably Israel that did it.
Yeah. And I misspoke. That was actually that Fuad Shukar. It was Beirut. So it was the Tehran one that Israel isn't claiming responsibility for. So
right, okay, that's right. I see. I can't keep all this stuff straight, and I mean, I have to be completely honest, folks. I'm coming up from the rear here tonight because I can't see. I'll see again tomorrow. It's okay. Don't worry. But it's slowed me down a lot today. So I'm trying to catch up while we're on the air. That's why I need Kevin.
Well, yeah. And you're getting me at 2:00 in the morning. So I'm okay with sticking to the guy in Beirut and the guy in Tehran.
Okay.
So the guy in Beirut, yes. So that was a retaliatory strike by Israel. They said it was. The guy in Tehran, Israel isn't claiming responsibility for.
So the guy in Tehran, this Ismail Hayad, he was the leader of Hamas.
The political leader.
The political
So,
leader of Hamas.
yeah.
Yes.
So we have to be clear on that, because we have two factions of Hamas. We have the political side, and we have the military / terrorist side. And, you know,
Now, again, I haven't had much time to absorb a lot of information about this, but he was one of the key negotiators.
yeah,
Right?
he was the negotiator.
So they killed that guy. Okay. So
Yeah. Hey,
that's what they think of the negotiations. Obviously, it's like, I don't really want to talk anymore. Let's just take them out.
They've poo-pooed these negotiations all along, and every time, the U.S. says, "Oh yeah, negotiations are going great," Israel goes, "Nah."
Yeah, we see how well they're going. Right? They just nuked the guy who they were talking to. Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
So, what does that tell us about the negotiations? Yeah.
Well, they sent a very clear message, didn't they?
Well, allegedly, because like I say, they don't claim responsibility for it. But we do have a history of Israel taking guys out in Tehran and not claiming responsibility, probably because they don't want Iran getting too nasty in the deal. And Iran is promising revenge at this point.
Yes, that word always worries me, right? It's like, holy crap, they're not just upset, they want revenge. I shouldn't be laughing about this stuff, but I have to be quite honest, okay? I have a lot of empathy. I great sorrow when I see soldiers killed, civilians killed, but when I see the guys at the top killing each other, I'm kind of like, that really is probably the way better if it was like that. And then let those guys fight and take each other out and leave the regular folks alone. That's just me.
Well, we'd probably be a lot better off in this world.
We would. There are a lot few people killed, and it would be a great disincentive to wage war if they knew that they were the ones who were going to get shot. Yeah.
Yep.
So that being said, do you think this might act as a deterrent for Hamas? It's kind of like, better sit down and strike a deal.
No, I think it's going to piss them off more.
I think you're right. Oh, I shouldn't be laughing, because this is going to get one side or the other, or maybe both, upset with me, because they're like, that guy doesn't like us. He's laughing at us. No, I'm not really. I'm just a little giddy tonight.
Sometimes all you can do is laugh at life.
Or death.
I mean, it's got Palestinians pissed off. They're protesting.
Yeah.
You've got the Iranians protesting. Hezbollah, it's going to piss them off. And, when you start striking inside of capitals, Tehran and Beirut, now all of a sudden you're going to have Lebanon in general pissed off. You've got Iran pissed off.
Yeah.
So it seems all that happens when Israel makes strikes like this is piss people off, and they start fighting back. So, I'd be more concerned about Iran, but, it's like the last time Israel struck Tehran and killed one of their, leaders.
Yeah.
That actually wasn't in Tehran. It was their embassy.
Right.
But
and it was in Syria. Yes.
Yeah. And they vowed revenge, and the revenge was a pretty forceful statement, but it wasn't a major attack. So hopefully Iran will still hold it there. But different president now, you know, who controls things, the president or the Ayatollah?
Well, I think the president gets to make these kind of calls, right?
Yeah. I mean, I'm trying to imagine Donald Trump on, you know, being inaugurated, and on that same day they take out Trudeau with a missile strike. You know, somebody,
Oh, well,
you know, yeah.
There goes another
well,
one bites the dust, right? Like another world leader. It's like,
yeah. I don't know.
So what are you hearing? What do you think? What kind of retaliation or revenge? How will revenge manifest itself in this case?
I'll be honest, I'm not hearing anything other than that broad statement of we're mad, and you know, Israel deserves to pay for it. I don't know. I have no answer for this one. It's, you know, it's a strike against Hamas, which Iran doesn't necessarily claim that they support or sell weapons to. We know they do, in all probability. But I think, if anything, this is more going to be about a strike in Tehran directly. And, you know, again, it's, you know, it's like Mexico making a strike on Washington, D.C.
And what about Lebanon and Hezbollah, you know, hitting Beirut like that? Again, that's really, as much as anything else, it's about making a statement. I see this as pent-up retaliation after repeated rocket attacks that turned a lot of the countryside in that area along the border, set a lot of that on fire. I remember running the footage a number of weeks ago. So this has been an ongoing escalation. This is something I think that has really been expected, but this happening really because of what happened in the Golan Heights, I guess, right? So
yeah. And, you know, if I'm going to be the devil's advocate and stand on the other side of the fence, you know, I hear Israel making claims about, well, Hezbollah's in that area, they're striking it, and Hezbollah's saying, you know, well, according to the UN, nobody's supposed to be there, neither of us, and Israel is there. So, you know, they're both looking for reasons to, you know, justify their smaller strikes. But at some point, you know, you have two bullies, and they go looking for each other just to say, well, you punched me the other day, so I'm going to punch you in the face today. And eventually there's going to be a big fist fight.
We might be there. It might be upon us. Yeah. In fact, I think maybe because we're not hearing very much, we might be there.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's way too quiet.
Yes, this time it's different.
And on the other hand, you know, Iran is the big boy in this deal. And, you know, last time they took, what, a week before they actually struck, and actually said, we're going to strike you tomorrow. So I'm hoping there's cooler heads at play. Haven't heard anything in the Russian media at all about this, other than the fact that it happened. So the Russian politicians aren't saying anything. So that tells me they're probably behind the scenes going, you know, well, let's keep things calm. It wasn't right, but you know, we don't want to escalate things too much.
Well, I think
that's
Russia
in our
has come
backyard.
out.
So
I think Russia has come out. Maybe it was Lavrov that made a statement, you know, criticizing Israel for taking these actions. Is that correct? Yeah.
Yeah, he made a statement. He usually does. Talk about a guy who has got his crap together. Lavrov always can make a pretty blasting statement without being blasting.
Yeah, and I didn't get to watch really any of it, but I know that the UN had a special session today talking about this whole situation in the Middle East. So, the world is watching.
Yeah.
To take a phrase or to use our slogan from Maverick News here tonight, the world is watching the Middle East for sure.
And on the other hand, maybe nothing will come of it. We can only hope and pray for that. Is this just the next big headline? Don't know. It was a pretty big event. They had they had delegations from 70 different countries in Tehran. And, I've heard, well, it was a strike on the Hamas guy's house. I've heard, I don't know. I don't know what to believe again.
So the one thing that does lead me to believe that we're going to see some sort of retaliatory strike is that there are a couple of key influencers, online streamers who are, very anti-Zionist, anti-Israel, pro-Palestine, and the language coming from them, I won't use their names, but they very, very strong language saying this will lead to the demise of Israel. So that even though you're not hearing it coming directly from the government or the military in Iran, I'm hearing this kind of talk from just a couple of key players.
Well, I don't know if you're talking about the same couple of key players I'm hearing things from, but let's also, if it is the same,
probably not
social guys. Not. Okay, because if it is, then I have to point at the fact that these are the same guys who are saying that the Russia-Ukraine conflict would be over in 3 days or next week
guys.
or next month. Okay, different
guys. I haven't had time to watch those guys.
Oh, okay. Well, so yeah.
But I can imagine what they were saying.
Yeah, the same guys. I was listening to one of my good brothers from my home country going on about this today. So
yeah, might as well give up now. There's no hope.
Yeah,
it'll all be over in 24 hours.
Well, I'll stir you up a little bit. I mean, Russia started their third round of nuclear tests, in the last couple of days. So, hey, but wait, that's no longer news.
Well,
so is it just, that was big news then too, and it was the end of the world. So are we just getting the latest cycle of crap?
Well, you and I were both very concerned about it when those first drills began, and now we're sitting here and it's like, oh, this is round 3, no big deal. Nothing to worry about. So
I'm starting to believe that, we get concerned about stuff that maybe we shouldn't be, but I hate to get caught with my pants down.
The only upside to getting it wrong is that if we get it wrong, we're all vaporized anyway, and no one's going to care.
Right. So, yeah.
Right. Oh, and here I am laughing about being vaporized. No wonder that the nurse was looking at me today saying, any mental health issues? We might get vaporized.
Well, you can give her my US number. I'll vouch for you. He ain't crazy.
It's just
duck.
That's exactly. It's like it is insane what we're talking about tonight. It is literally insane. And no, it's the people, the normies, the normies who are the nut jobs, because they're like oblivious.
Yeah. Well, we often talk about, are we heading to World War III? I'll be honest. I think we're in the middle of World War III right now. There aren't two clear sides, but I mean,
Yeah.
everybody's fighting.
Yes. Yes. And that's what we've seen just in the last 2 or 3 days is, more escalation. It's like spreading, right? It's like just
Yeah.
spreading out this conflict. The kinetic war is spreading. This is why it's getting incredibly dangerous. But if you think about world wars, this is how they break out, right?
Yeah.
Another country, another country, another country.
Then all of a sudden people start taking sides and
hmm And then we see rhetoric coming from even countries like Turkey, taking a stand against Israel, which is going to drive a wedge or form a crack in NATO, maybe. Just even the rhetoric
yeah.
isn't good. But, because you see, like, some of these countries like Turkey, Hungary, they're kind of like outliers on the European NATO alliance, right? It's like they're the black sheep of the family. Yeah,
And
thoughts on that?
the only I heard the statements from Turkey as well, and the first thing that came to mind is, well, this isn't the first time they've complained about Israel and said they're going to take a stand and didn't.
Mm-hmm.
So Erdogan, he tends to sit on the fence, and one of these days he's going to slip and that fence is going to go right up through his cojones.
Yeah, that's he does play both sides, doesn't he? Yes, he
Yeah.
does. Yeah. Where do you
I
think
want
Israel?
them F-35s, but I'm going to protect myself with Russian air defense.
And where do you think Israel sits right now in terms of overall risk?
The biggest risk I see with Israel is Israel themselves. We've got protests going on there with, the people who have hostages held by Hamas, supposedly, if they're still alive, and they're protesting. They want, Hamas destroyed. We've got the far right government in Israel, saying we've got to get tougher. It's time to end this war. And end this war with Israel means wipe everybody and everything out. And that would be Gaza, the West Bank. That would even be Lebanon, for crying out loud. And I think there's where the big danger is. You start, well, I can't say much about Gaza. They've been pretty much destroyed it and nobody's done anything. But you start poking at Hezbollah in the north and Iran, and, then I think we're going to have problems.
But the rhetoric I find is contradictory. I listened to those influencers I mentioned, and I hear on the one hand that the Gaza is devastated, that they're basically defenseless. There's nothing, no aid being allowed to get in. They're all starving to death, and blah, 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 blah. And then on the other hand, then the same, in the next breath, they come out and talk about how the Israeli forces are being devastated. The IDF soldiers are being, killed en masse. They might as well give up because they can't fight Hamas and they're just being destroyed. And I'm like, well, you can't have it both ways, right? You can't have it.
These are the guys who are, here and here, but we know the truth is in the middle.
Right.
We know aid is getting in. Is Israel telling the truth when they say they're allowing 3,000 calories a day for every Palestinian? I have a hard time buying that.
Yeah.
And on the other hand, we know there's aid going in.
Yes.
We wouldn't have aid workers being killed in Gaza if aid wasn't getting in.
Precisely. Yes. Which is, again, that's why I look at what they say and they contradict themselves. I'm like,
yeah.
So you're not really telling the truth. You're cheerleading is what you're doing. And so I I have to be very careful how much weight I give any of that information at that point.
Yeah. You know, I've had somebody poking on me for a couple of months now. You have to do a show about 5th generation warfare, this new 5th generation warfare, which isn't new, but basically all it is, you know, war is now fought with propaganda.
Yeah.
That's
essentially, yeah.
An area I know well.
Although I will say that, and I was I was giving this a lot of thought overnight, especially after last night's show. You know, the pandemic came along, everyone's talking about a virus, but it occurred, it's occurred to me before, but was really driven home again last night. The real virus that we really need to be concerned about is the online virus that is infecting people's minds, because
Yes.
we're being screwed in the head by, you know, multiple sides, and it's literally, talking about mental health, it's literally driving people nuts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And then you start seeing, you know, crazy things going on in countries, and you know, my lovely wife, her common statement at this point is somebody didn't take their meds. Yeah, it's mental health. So, you know, the Department of Defense in the United States calls it perception management. They want us to think what they want us to think. And, you know, when you have two sides doing it, then you don't know what to think. And maybe that's the goal, is to not have us be able to clearly see what's going on. It's got 1984 written all over it.
Oh, very much so. Yes. You know, just to go back to the hostages too, you said if any of them are still alive. I did see video just yesterday of what was supposed to be an Israeli hostage. There was an SUV. It was parked in traffic for whatever reason. Some guy with a gun gets out, opens the back. It was like a Jeep, I think, and it was like a side, the rear door, right at the very back, not a hatch, but it opened sideways. And this girl with her hands bound behind her back, and he pulls her out. And you can see that, I mean, it was disgusting, so I won't show you the video. Had obviously soiled herself. And then for whatever reason, took her from the back and then threw her in the back seat through the side door. You know, it was sad to see it, frankly. And again, but is it real? I would think it appears to be real. I don't see why that kind of footage wouldn't be real. Certainly not AI generated or anything. It was authentic that way. So I believe that it's very authentic. But that shows you that they're moving these. It's an indication that some of them are still alive and they're moving them around.
And what context did you see it in? Was it in the context of, you know, one side saying, look, they still have hostages, or?
You know, I didn't really pay much attention to it was the post that I saw didn't really seem to take a side one way or the other. It was like just cell phone footage, I think, as of someone in another vehicle shooting this while this activity was going on around this SUV with this apparent hostage. So that's all I really got from it. It wasn't like pro one way or the other. It was just like, here's a hostage. And no mention of even the hostage soiling herself. It was just very clear from the video. You could see that she had. And I thought, well, that's got to be just terrible, because how many days in captivity now? 280, 290, 291, something like that.
Yeah.
I think. I just can't imagine being held prisoner for that length of time, you know, on either side. It's just a terrible situation, right? I just feel for the people.
Rick. Hamas says that they are treating those people extremely well. They're feeding them fresh clothes. Yeah, but
Country club.
there again,
Yeah.
there's the propaganda spin again.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that doesn't match the video that I saw yesterday. And
Yeah.
like it didn't appear, and she did have blood on her arm, like a little bit of blood. But in the video that I saw, it wasn't like they were beating her at that moment or anything.
Yeah.
But obviously not a terrible place to be. Can't imagine.
Yeah.
And honestly, like I think back to the Iran hostage crisis in the 1970s. Every night on the news, I used to watch CBS News at 6 p.m. when I was a kid, and all the newscasts would have like the number of days the hostages had been held, and it just went on and on and on and on. It was, a huge problem for Jimmy Carter and his administration, huge embarrassment. But this, it's like it's rarely mentioned, and you do have Americans being held with others. It's perplexing to me, but it's a change in, I guess, attitude.
I don't know.
The US? I don't know.
Is it change in attitude, or do we go back again to the U.S. elections? They don't mention it because it makes the current administration look bad. I don't know. Maybe some of both.
Could be. Yeah.
Last mention I heard of it, I don't know if it was Trump or Vance, saying, well, gee, we still got 8 hostages over there. What's going on? But that was a minor mention in amongst, a bunch of other stuff.
Yeah. Trump did say in the one speech, he said, Hamas better release those hostages before I take office again. It was like a threat, kind of thing. So that was the most forceful thing I've heard so far, period, I think.
Yeah. And on the other hand, Trump is a guy who's going to end every conflict going on within 24 hours of taking office. So,
I don't know if I think this time around, if he is reelected and walks back into that White House, I think he has a totally different situation on his hands than he did in 2016.
I do too, but will he actually accomplish anything? Is he really going to send troops to Israel to strike on Hamas or Hezbollah, which would just aggravate matters even more? Now you've got the 2 big bullies. You've got Iran and the United States. So I don't really see that happening. He's going to end the conflict in Ukraine within 24 hours. And, quite honestly, the Russian leadership doesn't care what the West has to say. I don't know. It's real easy to say, I'm going to do this when you're running for election. It's a far different thing to do it without blowing the world up.
Speaking of blowing the world up, we keep hearing about Iran being very close to having a nuclear weapon, if they don't already.
Yeah.
Yeah. And seems to me that maybe this decision to strike right inside Tehran might be part of a strategy to escalate things, to find justification to go to war with Iran, or at least justify a strike against whatever nuclear facility they might have there. Any views on that?
If they do, I think that'll be all out war. And they don't have just one nuclear facility. Let's be realistic. They can talk about this is where they're doing all this development. I would be surprised if they don't already have nuclear weapons. Israel still doesn't admit to it, but I don't know.
And what do you think, Kevin? Like I'm very much opposed to any additional countries acquiring nuclear weapons because the more there are, I think the more danger the world is in, period, regardless
Yeah.
of who might get them. But other people are arguing, like the great George Galloway, who I said he's gone full blown nuclear insane. Um, but his view, other people support it. Iran should be allowed to have a nuclear weapon because Israel has a nuclear weapon. So why shouldn't they be allowed to have one too? And I don't know. How do you think this would provide more stability or less stability if Iran had nukes?
I don't see there being stability at all with anyone having nukes.
Mhm.
You have a couple of reasonably balanced countries with nukes that have held off on using them against each other for years. But, I don't know, the more guns you put on the street, the more shootings you're going to have.
Yeah, that's kind of my view on it too, right? We don't need any more countries with more nuclear weapons because it just further complicates everything. If everybody had them, we'd be, you know, every time another country gets them, in my view, you're just increasing the chances of some nut job deciding to push the button. So the
Yeah.
fewer
Yeah.
buttons there are to push, the better off the planet is, in my view, period. But
Yeah. And are new guys who get them going to, have the same safeguards in place that the big boys have? It takes two guys to do it. China, Russia, the United States, but give it to somebody where it's only one button to push. It's like, oh geez, that scares me.
yeah, and because we see, because you have different countries aligned with other countries, just one little guy launching one of these things could set up a chain reaction where everybody's launching everything, which, no thanks.
I agree. I
Yeah.
I prefer they don't.
Yeah, me too.
But
Yeah.
we never hear about the fact that France and the UK, Pakistan has nukes.
Mhm.
That concerns me.
Yeah.
And what is it? 9 countries that officially have them. India, supposedly North Korea now. I don't know. Is it true that they have them or not? It would surprise me if they don't.
Yeah. And these subs, Russian subs in Cuba, they're equipped with nuclear weapons, very likely. And the United States probably has subs sitting off the coast of Russia someplace right now too. So it's a constant Cuban Missile Crisis on both sides.
Yeah.
And
Reality is the subs in Cuba have been going there for years and years. This isn't anything new. Somebody just decided to make it a news item.
yeah, yeah. Well, are we screwed?
Well, I think eventually, yeah. I mean, the US is looking at putting weapons in Germany
Mm-hmm.
again. And, Russia said you do that and you're going to get like treatment. What does that mean? They've already put nukes in Belarus. So, what is like treatment? How far can Russia push things towards Europe if the US keeps pushing in Europe? I don't know, veiled threats or stupid statements. I'm not sure which.
And so much information coming in, but I think it was yesterday. Didn't the US just in the last day or two decide to like reverse a decision on putting missiles in someplace? Or maybe it was, maybe I was listening, maybe I was reviewing information from World War II. I'm mixing up maybe my information. Am
I don't
I
know.
off base there? Never mind.
I don't know.
Until
Hey.
I figure it out, I'll let you know.
Yeah. I will be back in 2 minutes.
Okay.
I have a wife who wasn't supposed to be home till tomorrow, who is downstairs and can't get in the house because she can't find her house key.
Oh, well, we can't keep her waiting. I'll run a
Yep.
couple little promos.
I'll be right back.
I'll hold
Yep.
the fort down while you go take care of things. I'll be right back, folks.
Yep.
Maverick News. The world is watching.
Okay, hang on. I'm just gonna remind you that you can still get your Trump tees, Trump t-shirts, Trump fighting tees. They're printed, they're ready to go. And here's how you can get yours.
He's a fighter. He's a survivor. President Trump, defiant, strong. He is determined to make America great again. Pay tribute to the 45th President of the United States with this collectible t-shirt from the Maverick News Memorable Moments collection. Even a would-be assassin's bullet could not stop him. Instead, he emerged with his fist in the air ready to fight. For freedom, get your Trump Fighting for Freedom t-shirt with any donation of $30 or more to Maverick News. There are 2 iconic artistic designs to choose from. But there is only one way to get these. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Support free speech. Free media. Support Maverick News. Call 1-866-248-1490 or order online at supergeeks.tv.
Maverick News. The world is watching.
Okay, we're back.
Howdy. So I know a subject you're going to get on here. So I'm going to give you crap for your racist t-shirts. Where is your t-shirt with Indian Kamala and black Kamala and white Kamala?
Well, I'll have to get on that. You know, we need to show diversity, and we need DEI t-shirts is what we need. Diversity, equity, and inclusion, right? So yeah. This was Trump in an interview in, I think it's in Chicago. It says, well, I'm going to run the clip. I haven't even heard the whole clip. I'm just aware of the story, but he is making reference to Kamala becoming black or something. It's like, classic Trump. Here we go. Here's what he said.
Some of your own supporters, including Republicans on Capitol Hill, have labeled Vice President Kamala Harris, who is the first Black and Asian American woman to serve as vice president and be on a major party ticket, as a DEI hire. Is that acceptable language to you? And will you tell those Republicans and those supporters to stop it?
How do you define DEI? Go ahead. How do you define
diversity, equity, inclusion?
Okay, yeah, go ahead. Is that what your definition?
That is
give me a
literally
definition
the words
then. Would you give me a definition
DEI.
of that? Give me a definition.
Sir,
of
I'm
that.
asking you a question,
No,
a
you
very
have to
direct
define
question.
it. Define it for me, if you
I
would.
just defined it, sir. Do you believe that Vice President Kamala Harris is only on the ticket because she is a Black woman?
Well, I can say no. I think it's maybe a little bit different. So, I've known her a long time indirectly, not directly, very much, and she was always of Indian heritage, and she was only promoting Indian heritage. I didn't know she was Black until a number of years ago when she happened to turn Black, and now she wants to be known as Black. So I don't know, is she Indian or is she Black?
She is always identified as a Black woman. She went to a historically Black college.
I respect either one, but she obviously doesn't, because she was Indian all the way, and then all of a sudden she made a turn, and she became a Black person.
Just to be clear, sir, do you believe that she is
somebody should look into that too when you ask continue in a very hostile, nasty tone.
It's a direct question, sir. Do you believe that Vice President Kamala Harris is a DEI hire, as some Republicans
I really don't
have
know.
said?
I mean, I really don't know. Could be. There are some, and there
Oh my God.
Yeah, you know, it was almost like he was on a game show. Define what you're asking me. However, he was right. She historically has not identified as Black. She's identified as Indian up until recently.
Yes, you're right about that. And I know that her dad is from Jamaica, I believe, and her mom is from India. So let me just find, let me see if I can find a picture of her parents.
Yeah, because I don't know that her dad is Black. I was reading something that's saying, well, he's from Jamaica, but his heritage apparently is Chinese and Syrian. So I don't know.
Yeah. Donald J. Harris is the father of Kamala Harris. He is a Jamaican American economist and professor emeritus at Stanford University, originally from St. Anne's Bay, Jamaica, of Afro-Jamaican descent. Harris was born August 23rd, 1938, to Beryl Christie Harris and Oscar Joseph Harris. Grew up in Orange Hill area of St. Anne Parish near Brownstown. Harris received a Bachelor of Arts from University College of the West Indies. In 1960 and 1963, came to the United States to earn a PhD from University of California, Berkeley, which he completed in 1966. He met his future wife, Shyamala Gopalan, through the Civil Rights Movement. And let's see if we can find a picture of the guy.
We have a picture of the guy right here.
Do you? Okay.
And, you know, I'm not an expert at such things, but he looks mixed race too.
Yeah, he kind of does, doesn't he?
Yeah, which would kind of play into, you know, what I was reading about him. That his actual background is, you know, Syrian plus.
Syrian plus. There's an ethnicity for you. I'm Syrian plus.
Well, hey, I don't know. Yeah, I want a DNA test.
Yeah,
check.
I think
check her birth certificate.
As soon as you start talking about political things with, you know, ethnicity wrapped around it or injected into it, I think you're on dangerous ground. Period. These are the wedges that get driven in between groups of people and really get people emotional.
Yep.
Yeah. We have a lot of that playing out right here in Canada because of land claims, who's First Nation, Métis, which is mixed race to begin with. The federal government with new legislation coming forward through Bill C-53 here, talking about recognizing certain Métis groups as First Nations, which will give them access to potentially, I would say, even billions of dollars. And there's just a lot of money, land rights, shift of power, land back, all of these issues, reparations possibly being paid over time, renegotiated treaties, the whole Métis thing. That's at the core of a lot of what's going on here in Canada. And that's all about race. Race. What defines someone who is native? What's a race? If you're a mixed blood, are you native? And now you've opened a whole can of worms.
Yep. And I always love that term First Nations, because what does it mean to be First Nations? They were always there, or they were the first ones to come? What are their origins? We forget that, Russia and Alaska, Canada, all that was one big continent that kind of split apart. And, what does it mean to be First Nation?
That is, well, the federal government kind of gets to define that here in Canada, even with the United Nations Declaration of Rights for Indigenous Peoples. I have a lot to say about that, actually. I've been learning a lot about it over the last couple of years, but people need to remember too, the critical theory group, right? Or the people from that side of the political fence who talk about critical theory and the 1619 Project. The first explorers were Vikings to come here, and that was in 1021 AD. Vikings. And so that was before Christopher Columbus. We just saw them deface the Freedom Bell, which is the replica of the Liberty Bell in Union Station during those big pro-Palestine protests when Netanyahu came to America. Way before Christopher Columbus came, they were Vikings. And I can tell you, I have Viking blood in me. So my ancestors were probably the first, among the very first
the first
explorers.
First Nation?
Well, the first, I don't know if you can say my ancestors on the Viking side predated the First Nations, but we've been here a whole long time. Since 1021 AD. That's a long time.
Yep.
I don't know if it's since time immemorial, but boy, oh boy, don't we at least don't I at least then get landed immigrant status?
Well, there you go. So you should be able to get some kind of money or social services of some kind.
I would
free mortgage.
Yeah, I can tell you this: I have never received, aside from the usual health care that everybody gets, here, because that's the only choice you have. I've never had employment insurance, welfare, nothing, as a Canadian citizen. Maybe that makes me stupid. Maybe I should run down and get my free money.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I keep thinking about going back to California and identifying as black, but I'm turning black too. So hey,
again, I shouldn't be laughing, and this is actually a very serious issue here in Canada. They're called pretendians, people who are trying to culturally appropriate, to First Nations identity, so that they get special treatment or special status or access to government grants so they can qualify for employment. You have, diversity hires, DEI hires all over the place here, especially for government jobs. There was, if you want a gig at a university, chances are you're not even going to be considered now unless you check a certain number of boxes on the the scale, the hierarchical scale of victimhood or whatever, right? That's the reality here in my country.
Well, I think it's reality in lots of places right now.
Mm-hmm. And I need your
But-
comments on what. Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, but do me a favor. Define DEI.
No, I'm not gonna. I don't want to because it's just going to get me in trouble. So we'll just change the subject. Too late. I'm already in trouble. We're all in trouble, man. That's the reality. And one of the reasons we're in trouble is because we have two other stories, I think, sort of related to everything going on in the Middle East, definitely related to what's going on, because there's the RCMP holding a news conference today to talk about two men in Canada who have been arrested for terrorism charges. We're also going to talk about a guy who's pleading guilty. You'll probably recognize the name, to planning the 9/11 attack. But here, let me show you what's going on first of all. So the RCMP has announced more details now on two men who have been arrested in Canada for terrorism charges. Ahmad Fouad Mostafa Aididi, he's 62 years old, and Mostafa Aididi, 26 years old, are facing 9 charges, including conspiracy to commit murder on behalf of ISIS. Police say the men had an axe and a machete as weapons. Let me bring up a little bit of the news conference for you here, and then Kevin, I'll get you to help us out with this one too. Okay, here we go.
On a terrorist attack that was prevented by the RCMP's Federal Policing's Greater Toronto Area Integrated National Security Enforcement Team, we'll call it INSET. The GTA INSET is made up of the representatives, many of whom you see before you today. The RCMP, Toronto Police, CBSA, the Ontario Provincial Police, York Regional Police, Peel Regional Police Service, and the Durham Regional Police, with assistance that we get from the Ministry of the Attorney General of Canada and of Ontario and the Public Prosecution Service of Canada. INSET investigates threats to national security, including criminal extremism and terrorism. These investigations carried out by INSET look into the most serious threats to Canada's safety and security. On July 28, 2024, GTA INSET arrested a father and son at a hotel in Richmond Hill who were in the advanced stages of planning a serious, violent attack in Toronto. We became aware of this in early July. A publication ban is currently in place in order to protect the integrity of the complex investigation. However, I will speak to the details that I can provide at this time. With the consent of the Attorney General of Canada, and where appropriate, the Attorney General of Ontario, 2 individuals stand charged with a number of criminal code terrorism offences. Ahmed El Didi, age 62, and Mustafa El Didi, age 26, face charges for their alleged terrorist activities, including participation in the activities of a terrorist group, ISIS or Daesh, contrary to Section 8318 of the Criminal Code. Facilitating a terrorist activity, contrary to Section 8319 of the Criminal Code. Conspiracy to commit murder, contrary to Section 465 of the Criminal Code, for a terrorist purpose. 1 count each of possession of a weapon for a dangerous purpose, contrary to Section 88 of the Criminal Code, again, for a terrorist purpose, those weapons being an axe and a machete. In addition, Ahmed El Didi faces 1 additional charge for aggravated assault, contrary to Section 268 of the Criminal Code. I want to emphasize there is no evidence to suggest that there is any remaining risk to the public. I would also like to say that I'm very proud of the impressive team effort that went into this investigation. The success would not have been possible without the work done by all involved civilian and sworn members and a collective effort from our partner agencies that I've mentioned earlier and that are here before you. I would also like to thank the Canadian Security Intelligence Service, CSIS. They also assisted with this investigation, as always, and I want to thank them for their assistance. Along with our law enforcement partners, the RCMP remains committed to combating violent extremism both in Canada and abroad. Thank you for everyone coming here today. I'll be now reading this statement in French, after which I will turn it over to our moderator to lead us through the Q&A portion.
First comment, and no offense, Rick, this guy was so Canadian. he spent as much time thanking everybody that helped in the investigation as he did giving any facts. So just sorry.
We're so nice. We're so
that was
nice
my
here.
first impression. Yeah.
It's a valid observation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know anything about this case. We don't really have any details other than what we just heard. But my initial reaction is, a guy my age and a guy my daughter's age picking up an axe and a machete and going out and committing acts of terror. This seems to be a catch-all label for anything done by anybody who's from somewhere else. These guys obviously aren't native Canadians, but what happened to the old charge of, I don't know, attempted murder or plan? I don't know. Is it even a crime to have, planning a murder if you actually don't carry things out? I guess it is. It's conspiracy.
Mm-hmm.
But what happened to these old charges? How come everything becomes terrorist acts now? I'm having a hard time picturing an old guy and a young guy with an axe and a machete causing a lot of malicious damage. Have we overused the term terrorism at this point?
Well, I appreciate your comments from afar. I would be inclined to think that I am inclined to think that this is more serious than that. The RCMP wouldn't act in this way if they didn't have evidence that these guys had direct ties to ISIS. They wouldn't hold a news conference like this, in my experience, unless they had intelligence information that they're going to point to in court, bring evidence forward to show that they had been planning these acts. And so I have more confidence in this information, obviously, than you. But that's, my perspective here is obviously going to be different than yours sitting over there. I just,
I'm not saying they don't have the evidence, but terrorism in a real broad sense is the use of intentional violence and fear to achieve political and ideological aims. Well, maybe if they were going to do this in the name of ISIS, we can say that was ideological, but I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm just,
And
I'm not trying to downplay it at all,
sure.
but
yeah. And I just know that I have seen over here a number of cases like this over the last 8 to 10 years. They pop up every once in a while, even in my hometown, just an hour from here. It had to be probably in around 2015. I think there was a young guy, Caucasian, but had gone over and trained with ISIS, came back, and then he was going to blow up a shopping mall. And they became aware of the plan with some help of U.S. intelligence, and they stopped him when he was just about to go to the mall with the bomb, and intercepted him there. So this stuff is going on in Canada. We've seen that number of incidents. So I'm pretty confident that this was a real threat.
Yeah.
And
So
it's
again,
unfortunate.
you guys are just too nice. You need to deal with terrorists like we do over here. Cut their ear off,
Right.
attach some wires to their private parts, electrocute them a little bit, get them to confess, and then throw them in jail for the rest of their life.
Yeah. Well, here in Canada, what we do with terrorists is after the Americans get a hold of them, we give them 20 million bucks.
Yeah.
That's what we do. It's like, oh, gee, sorry about that. Sorry what the Americans did to you. Here's 20 million. Is that enough? That's what Trudeau did. Didn't sit well with a lot of people, and other people think that's a grand thing to do. I'll let you guys decide where you want to come down on that one. Omar Khadr, yeah. I don't know if you're familiar with the case, Kevin, but
not at all.
Yeah, yeah, he was at Camp Gitmo. Anyway, it's a long story. Very controversial here in Canada.
What happened to the Mounties? Where's the red uniform?
Oh my, you know what? You're like these guys who want us to decouple from the monarchy. Everything's a cliche with you guys. It's like, yeah, they have them. Yeah, but you know, you have to go to like the Calgary Stampede or something when they're doing their parade. That's when they break out the red things. Or when the Queen, or in this case, the King now would come to visit. You know, you might see some red uniforms, but day to day, when they're out just performing their duties, no, you don't really see the red uniforms with the big hats. No. Although they do wear the big hats.
Yeah.
Just they're not red. They dress in black. So anyway.
Yeah.
There's that.
I really can't comment on that one, you know. Glad they caught them. That's all I can say.
Yeah, you know, just me too, because I don't want to see anybody get hurt. Simple as that.
Even if they went out and, you know, it was only 2-3 people that got hurt, it's still a bad thing. It's a good thing to prevent.
So this story coming out of Washington now, Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, okay, he's accused of being the main plotter in the September 11th, 2001 attacks, 9/11, and he has apparently agreed to plead guilty. This coming from the U.S. Defense Department. I don't know. This has been a long time coming, hasn't it?
It's been a long time coming. I find it hard to believe that one guy planned it, and all of a sudden, where did they catch this guy?
Well, it says here that Mohammed and 2 accomplices in the attack are expected to enter these pleas at the military commission at Guantanamo Bay as soon as next week. And this agreement with the U.S., with the men to enter into a plea agreement, it comes more than 16 years after their prosecution began. This, of course, all predicated on the evidence that is being used to argue that Al-Qaeda is responsible for the attack. And that's kind of where we're at. So we know the families of the victims have said that they want to see these men formally admit guilt, and it looks like they're going to get that. It's this is a breaking story. Let me see if I can get any more information on this. Yeah, here's a little bit more.
You know, again, I don't want to downplay anything, but didn't they originally blame Osama bin Laden for this, or one of those guys? And, you know, now all of a sudden we have this guy, you know, they've had him in Guantanamo, apparently. So Lord only knows where they snagged him and sent him there. But, you know, what did they do to him there to,
the U.S.
you know, get him to confess?
The U.S. authorities are pointing to Muhammad as the source of the idea to use planes as weapons. And then they're saying he allegedly received approval from Osama bin Laden. And of course, bin Laden was reportedly killed in 2011. And I think, you know, they say they buried him at sea. And I know that was done because they didn't want a grave site or anything like that used to, I guess, amplify his role as a martyr at that point, right? So that
I know I hang out with you too much. you know, my mind is going towards the conspiracies. You know, they dumped them at sea, so no one knew if they really killed them or not. I don't know.
It's hard to know what's real, isn't it?
Hard to know what's real. Show me
Yeah.
the proof.
Yeah. I'm not a big 9/11 conspiracy guy. I'm really not, but I do understand that there is so much controversy, so many different theories surrounding it, that it's just like JFK, the JFK assassination, the RFK assassination, Martin Luther King, all of these things, and even the Trump attempted assassination. I don't know if we're ever going to get to the truth in any of these things because there's so much confusion surrounding it.
So why did it take them 23 years to get these three guys to say, yeah, we did this, we planned it? I don't know. You throw Guantanamo into it, and that just puts a big spin on it. You hear about what goes on there. And, is this these guys' way of just saying, yeah, okay, you're never going to let us go anyway, so we're going to take responsibility, so you'll quit torturing us or something? I don't know.
It's taken, in my view, way too long to deal with this. I'm surprised I'm even reading this tonight at this point.
Yeah.
It's very strange to me.
And wasn't there, I don't know, wasn't there something about a while back, like 5 Israelis? Yeah, the gray zone, the 5 dancing Israelis were behind the attack. I don't know. What's fake? What's real? Will we ever know the truth? I doubt it.
Well, the 5 dancing Israelis. I'm sure that I'm sure that the report from the gray zone was entirely unbiased.
They tend to be very unbiased.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was from back in 2021, but
yeah, because
it's carried by all.
Max Blumenthal is very, very, very neutral when it comes to the situation in the Middle East.
Absolutely.
He's like straight neutral. Middle
he's
of the
neutral
road,
about Russia and Ukraine. He's neutral about Serbia and Kosovo. He's neutral about France and Africa.
Never picks a side, that guy. Never
No,
picks a side.
no.
What else do we have tonight to talk about?
I don't know, but I'm actually going to have to let you go. So
yeah, so I think we're kind of at the point where we're ready to wrap up, Kevin. Yeah, we are at the end of the night, so I will actually throw it over to you, sir. And I appreciate you, hanging in there as long as you have tonight, and helping me out. I'll just give you the floor for some final thoughts.
I need to come up with some new final thoughts. Don't believe everything you see in the news. Look at the facts. Make your own decisions. Stay out of the conspiracy stuff, and beware of becoming like Rick and I.
Yeah, you don't want to do that. Bad idea. Otherwise, you're going to go. Otherwise, you're going to go.
You could be on the 3rd floor. Yeah.
That's right. You'll get a one-way ticket to the psych ward at the local hospital when you go visit the nurse. That being said, folks, I'll be back for another kick at the can. Hopefully tomorrow night. I'm going to go see my mom tomorrow, but I'm still going to try and get back here to do the program. So hopefully I'll see everybody back here 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the flip side.
This has been a Maverick Multimedia production.